Alright, so now we're gonna go into the podcast with Robert Edward Grant and Emilio. That was just aired just I believe yesterday. So as I'm learning more and more about and just like dissecting the video and you know just like rewatching what Robert is talking about, it's just kind of like growing the understanding of what's actually happening, and I just don't know if I'm able to explain it in words, but I'm gonna try with this little explanation, and I'm gonna explain what he starts with. And there's gonna be a lot of mathematical terms, a lot of different things that I'm gonna do my best to give you like descriptions and explanations of, but on your own time you could probably go into it and find more about these things. But once you do that, it's going to make a lot more sense, because I do believe Robert is the modern day Da Vinci, after just learning more and more as I continue to watch like this podcast and him explain these mathematical overlaps. It's just insane. It's actually insane. So he goes on, like, so he basically has a bunch of different structures. I'm going to show you guys a few clips later on, so this makes a lot more sense, and he's actually going to explain different things. But I'm going to try to clip up certain parts that I really feel highlight the things that he is touching on, but I feel like it's so intricate that I have to give you some, definitions and a few explanations before you guys are able to just see this, like at least a short clips and like meshed in clips together, so you could really understand the message just in this short video compared to this 2-hour long podcast. But I would suggest you guys, like, I really would suggest you guys to go watch that podcast, rewatch the podcast, because I'm telling you, it could go over the head with that. He begins to talk about the Pentagon, and because of math and also spirituality, he says, Robert mentions that the Pentagon resembles the heart. So the Pentagon is how he is the shape that he is allowing him to discover and put together the coded inscriptions or illustrations that are in Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. And you'll see later that he actually overlaps a lot of the Leonardo da Vinci's portraits, like the Vitruvian Man, the Mona Lisa, and the Last Supper. These are going to be the three main images or main portraits that we're going to be looking at, or that he's going to be looking at and he's deciphered. But it's just going to correlate with what I was talking about with the numbers. Well, I mean, it really can't compare in terms of the complexity, but in terms of what we're seeing and what we're witnessing and experiencing in our world right now, I really do feel like there's an emergence right here. So I think you guys will see it. So this is the Merkaba, and it's well known in spiritual texts. So you guys also may know it as the Star of David. But this structure is very important. It is just throughout history, throughout the ancient knowledge, this symbol has came up a lot. So basically, he took the Merkaba, but not just a regular lined out, Star of David. What made him decode the actual structure and the code that we're going to see in just a second is that he basically found the Merkaba that was drawn specifically with thicker bands is what he calls it, and it basically allows him to basically overlap it and basically size it to other drawings and shapes that he overlapped all of the portraits. So essentially, recap: he gets the Merkaba, plates the Merkaba within the Pentagon, And then the pentagon allows him to basically create.
But I promise it's totally related to what you're talking about. And I think it's because that's what's happening. We're really waking up to this extra dimensional aspect of ourselves, and it's happening all around the world. It's all happening at the same time. And it's incredibly beautiful too.
It is.
All right. So here's this little weird thing. What is this thing?
The Mona.
Yeah, but you see this little black omega on its side, or letter C shape right here?
On the shackle, yeah, up top.
Yeah, that's like a shackle, right?
Above the river.
Yeah, above the river. Okay. So now let's look at Vitruvian Man. Let's see if we could find, on Vitruvian Man, what's there. Let's see. Right here. Why is it that Vitruvian Man, he's got 14 lines on his body, right? These lines represent the exact same locations of the lines of the cuts of Osiris by his brother Set when he killed him. But what I noticed is that the right wrist has a different characteristic associated with it. You could see two lines here. There's a line that's the same on the left wrist right here, but there's another line to the right of it right here. You see that?
Yep.
So then what I did is I said, well, what would happen if I put his fingers up against the exact edges of Mona Lisa? And would it actually connect the two? Would the wrist fit right where the shackle was on the wrist? And it does. So I looked at that and said, okay, is there something else like that I could use, right? That would be also geometric with the Last Supper painting and Vitruvian Man. And do all of the paintings by Da Vinci after 1486, after his visit to Egypt, not only connect esoteric wisdom teachings inside of them, but do they also connect to Egypt? And they all do. They absolutely all do. So this is like a multi-painting masterpieces that is multi-dimensional, and we don't even know. That's why we look at something that seems so banal as the Mona Lisa, but it's so enigmatic. It's what our souls are attracted to. That's why all of his works are masterpiece works. They're all encrypted. So what I started doing is I started realizing that there's a very specific Metatron's cube. And this very specific Metatron's cube has the capability that it relates to the pentagon. So the pentagon represents the heart. So then what I did is I started to play with this a little bit to see what I could figure out. And look what I noticed. First of all, that width that was inexplicable, like this distance from here to here, is exactly the distance when you match up the walls to that rectangle. It's exactly the distance of this border around the Last Supper painting.
Yeah.
Why is that border even there? So Da Vinci is giving us clues, right? He's literally giving us clues. And the geometry is just mirroring what we're supposed to learn through all of this. We have to learn how to overcome conditionality of love and learn unconditional love to be radically authentic. It's the authenticity. So researchers have done studies on this, and they've shown that it's not that love has the strongest frequency. Actually, the strongest amplitude of emotional states, when measured, is actually authenticity. And now, how can you be authentic if you don't even know your darkness? So when people ask me, how do you get to authentic love? What's the difference between unconditional love and authentic love? Authentic love is when you know your darkness and you love yourself anyway. It's when you can know your darkness and you love yourself anyway, completely and wholly, then you will also see the world around you in the same light. The people that you know, the world has its darkness, but you love it unconditionally anyway. That's authentic love. Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to be unconditionally loving, love and light, love and light. And they're not even aware of their darkness, so they don't even know what they're bypassing. So here you've got this circle, and the Last Supper painting and the King's Chamber room is exactly this proportion that meets up exactly with this smaller Merkaba, right? Line right here, just extend the line, and you've got a 2-to-1 rectangle, just like the King's Chamber. All right, so, and then remember, there's 36 decan in astrology, and how many holes are in the ceiling over here? 36 holes.
Yeah.
And how many astrologies do we have?
12.
Right, we have 12. So then on top of that, we have the Atlantean 36 decanate, which is also found in Dendera Stela, right? So when you add them all together, you have 48 constellations. So those are the Ptolemaic constellations. So there's 3 deacons for every of the one astrological, the normal zodiac that we have. So Taurus has within it Auriga, Eridanus, and Orion.
Yeah.
And Orion is directly related to Osiris in Vitruvian Man. So I thought, how could I overlay this into the Vitruvian Man? So of course, where do I go mentally? Well, if I'm going to be Da Vinci, I'm going to place the circle around Vitruvian Man inscribe it within, just like this circle right here. I'm going to inscribe it in the exact same way and see what happens. Make sense?
Yep.
So then I did. And this is what came out of it. And among other things, I noticed some other correspondences that were like, what the heck? So I first of all, I started doing the geometry within this structure to see what things could show up here. And I started noticing a clear Philosopher's Stone relationship. And that when I did that and I simply drew this circle inside of a triangle, the same triangle from the same structure, then I noticed that Jesus is perfectly flanked by a triangle, but he's tilting towards his left. The center point is not over his eye like everyone thinks. It's not correct. And I did this many, many times over. So then I noticed that there's this, triangle that fits around Jesus that's like perfectly fitting around Jesus, but he's leaning a little bit to the left. And why is that? Also, the Eye of Ra on the back wall of the Last Supper is flanked now inside of what looks like a pyramid, this orange pyramid, as an Eye of Providence. And this is just by taking the lines that were used to construct it and extending upon them to see what the next thing would do. You make a Merkaba, then you make another Merkaba inside that Merkaba. And anyone who does geometry knows this is what you do.
I feel like this is a lot of information. Like the average human brain isn't really going to automatically grab onto this information. But I really do think that you guys should go watch it, because I feel like there's a lot of intricate things that are at play here. And I feel like I kind of mentioned in my last video with my 8 and 6 number. I really feel like this is a balance of the masculine, or the healing of masculine, and the rising of feminine. And you see a lot of talk of like this going on social media, but I feel like there's a really huge misunderstanding within this topic. But to say the least, it definitely is something that is happening, and I just really wanted to highlight it. Didn't really want to, put a perspective on it, because I myself am also dissecting it and seeing how I have to put that to balance within my life, which is the masculine and feminine. So we're all learning together, and we're all learning together, and I feel like if we have more perspectives like this, we'll learn a lot. I feel like Robert is like Robert mentions, I feel like he is discovering the mathematics that is illustrating what we have to learn right now. And the fact that we are finding all of this information now is for a reason. It's not a coincidence that everything is happening the way it is around us. And if we take time to look at the important things in our life, like going within, like learning more about ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Quieting our thoughts, you know, and taking steps forward. You know, a lot of the ancient teachings like yoga, you know, meditation. That's one thing that I've been really big on right now is meditation. And I feel like I really recently like grasped like, you know, like meditation. You know, I just started my journey, but I really do feel like it's going to, you know, turn out good. I feel like I really, you know, am starting to experience, you know, myself, you know, and this is what is pushing me to actually do this. So just know that I've been through, you know, just like you know, we're all the same. I am you, just like Robert saying, this is your inverse, you know. Whatever you perceive and you see in your world is a reflection of you. And if something is getting you upset, that's something that you have to look at within yourself and understand that maybe there's an optimistic viewpoint that you can, you know, switch this currently negative standpoint. You know what I mean? Always think optimistic. And that's one thing I feel like I've been blessed to inherit with. But yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. I feel like Robert's you know, discovery speaks for itself, and I hope you guys found this information, you know, helpful.